Hello, and welcome to the Wayfaring Panda. I'm Annette. Today I'm working on another Superhero Saturday where I make a superhero themed card. So on this one I'm going to show you coloring one of the images, and I've already stamped it and cut it out on Copic friendly paper. And I'm starting off with my Y colors, so the yellow. So I'm starting with Y19, which is my darker yellow, and then I move to Y15. I generally, if I'm doing blending, I like to start with my darker color first. So on her headband, I'm doing the darker color on the side because it's kind of behind the hair, so it would be darker. But also, if you make the outside of images darker and as you go in lighter, it gives it more of a rounded appearance. On the other items, I just use the Y15. First of all, I have a bullet nib, which is easier to color with, and the other items like the rope and the trim on the boots are very thin, so that's the main reason I just did one. I didn't bother doing any shading on those items. I color her sword gray, so I start on the bottom with W3, which is the little bit darker color, and then move to W1 on top. Then I go back to Y15 because I need to color in the yellow parts of her dress. Then I use B26 for the bottom of her dress, and I'm just trying to use bright colors to go along with the traditional bright colors of the comic books. Then I use R46, which is called Strong Red, to do her dress. And I like that one because it's kind of the truest bright red that you kind of think of when you think of like the American flag and things like that, because I'm giving this card to a young girl, so I wanted to have bright and happy looking colors. Then I go back in with Y19 to color the bracelets. I haven't done too many skin and hair tones on too many of my images since I've mostly colored animals until recently, so I'm just trying out different blends. So how I usually do it is I start with the darkest color that I'm going to use, and I go to the places that I think will be darker, color that in, and then I move to a lighter color and blend it out. So I'm just going to where like the darker areas would be under her clothes, under her chin, under a hairline, under a crown, anywhere there might be a shadow. If there were some joints on this image, like the elbows, that's where I would also do it darker. And so I'm using my E color, so I'm starting off with E13 as my darkest color. Then I move to E11, which is my mid-tone, and the lightest color I'm using is E00, which I use mostly on the face. And I just go back and forth, especially on the face. I do a lot of blending back and forth to get all the color to blend and get them to look like a smooth transition from dark to light. For the hair, I'm using my darkest grays because I want it to look kind of black, but of course hair will have different tones to it. So I'm using my W9, and I'm mostly putting that on the underneath portions and kind of where her hair flips, put it where it would be underneath. But I'm also trying to put some flecks in and add a little bit of the lighter gray, which is W7, throughout the dark gray also, because of course hair isn't one shade. Now you can do a technique where you get it to look more like hair, and it's kind of a flecking motion, which I haven't really mastered, but I'm just trying to put little streaks in instead. Then I use RV32 to add color to her lips, and I try to put on some blush, but you can see I get the blush a little bit crooked, so then I do come in with my E00 to kind of go over the face again because I didn't really like how the blush went on. That pretty much erased it, so then I bring in my RV32 again and add the blush back in. I'm using my VersaFine Clear Nocturne ink to stamp my sentiment inside my card base, and I'm using the stamp set called You're My Hero, which is where I got the stamp image for Wonder Woman, and also there was one here that looks like it's probably Batman, but I colored it to be Batgirl from the old 1960s show. And then I'm just stamping inside, have a super birthday, since I'm making this for a little girl for her birthday. Since I'm doing a shaker card, I need a front panel that has some windows cut out, so I use this die from Whimsy Stamps, and it's called Slimline Marquee die. And then I could just cut out a piece of paper the same size without the windows to be the back panel. And I just put my characters down first just to see where I wanted to do my ink blending, and it's kind of be a rainbow. I was trying to decide how I was going to combine the Wonder Woman type character with the Batgirl type character, since their colors are totally different except for yellow. So I'm going to start her at the top with the red and blue, and then move on down for yellow and purple. And I thought yellow could be towards the middle since they both have yellow. Of course, I'm speeding this process up on the video, otherwise you'd be here for half hour watching me do the ink blending. So when I'm doing the ink blending on the card fronts, I like to use Bristol Smooth cardstock because it blends really well. And I'm using a Tim Holtz blender to put on my ink. I'm starting with Candied Apple, and then the blue color is Faded Jeans. And then the yellow is Mustard Seed, and then I did Wilted Violet. Now, normally when I'm doing kind of a rainbow effect, I do try to blend the two colors that are next to each other together. So let's say you're doing the blue and the yellow and you have green, but I was trying not to do that because there's no green on either of my characters or other colors. So I was trying to just stop so that I wouldn't end up with other colors that are not in my coloring. When you make a shaker card, you can build up the walls to put your shaker bits in with either foam tape, or you can use multiple layers of the window frame. So that's what I did, as I cut out several other window frames, but I just used plain white cardstock for that. And I just keep gluing layers of the windows on top with my Nuvo Deluxe glue. I think on screen I show 4 different layers, and then I believe I added 3 more. I made this card several weeks ago because, of course, I gave the card to my student before the end of school, since her birthday was going to be in June and school was over at the end of May. How thick you need to make the wells for your shaker bits kind of depends on what shaker bits you're going to use. So if I was just going to do seed beads, which I do use, and sequins, I wouldn't have probably had to use as much layers of paper, but I have kind of these glass beads that I wanted to use. I don't know what you call them, but so they're a little bit thicker, so I had to build it up more so my shaker bits can move more. The one thing I noticed when I was testing out, see what my card panel would look like on top of this, is that some of the white showed through because we have so many layers of white paper, and it's hard to get it all to line up exactly. So I just go over all of it with the ink again along the side, just to kind of cover up some of that white paper that's showing through. Now if you use foam and don't go all the way over to the side, that's not a problem. The other thing I realized as I was doing this is that I had my card kind of staged earlier in a vertical position, but I really need to do it horizontal since the sentiment is going horizontal, which is not a problem. I just put my characters going the other direction. I used some double-sided tape to put onto my front window pane, and then I attach my acetate that I already cut out, and usually I just use packaging for that. I struggled with the acetate because it kind of went on crooked, and I had trouble getting it back off and putting it back on again. But eventually I was able to do that. I just left that in here so you know that, hey, we all have trouble doing some of the things that look easy. One thing you could do is sometimes you can put glue on top of your double-sided tape so it gives you a little bit of wiggle room so it doesn't get permanently adhered until after you have time to adjust it. Once I get the window done, then I get to move on to the fun part of putting the shaker bits into the well. And I tried to coordinate the colors with the colors that's in each well. And the things I'm using mostly is some seed beads, and I have sequins, the clear ones that I could put in any of them. And then I had some purple and turquoise colored sequins that I put in the middle one, and then also I had some ones that look like round, well, they look like those candy sprinkles. I got these at a convention, but I have no idea what booth I got them from, and the packages don't say. So I had some ones that look like clear glass, some blue ones, red ones, and then I had some kind of purple looking glass. So kind of have fun doing this one because this idea allowed me to use a different shaker mix in each well. And I kind of get a rainbow effect. And of course, I'm sure the little girl I gave this to loved it. In fact, I know she did because she carried it around for most of the day. I will put a list of all the products that I'm using in the description below. Some of these will be affiliate links. They don't cost you anything extra to use, but I do get a small commission from any sales that the links generate, and that helps support my channel. As some of these I'll just put in for your information. They won't be affiliate links, like the link to the Scrappy Boy Stamps where I got the superhero stamps, and the Whimsy Stamps where I got my die, because I don't have an affiliation with them. I just like their products. And also some of the products may not be available anymore at some places because some of these things are older, or in the case of the shaker bits, I have no idea where I got them. I go around all the windows with my glue to add on my top panel, and this time I'm using glue instead of tape so I don't have the same problem I had before. And then I glue my card panel onto my card base, and this is where I always make sure that I have my card right side up because I have glued on my card panel on upside down before. Now that my card front is done, I go ahead and glue my characters onto the front of the card. And if this was a flat card and not a shaker card, I would probably prop them up with foam squares or some chipboard or something like that. But this card already has a lot of dimension and depth, so it doesn't really need that. As a final embellishment, I'm adding these enamel stars from Craft Consortium from their Fairy Wishes collection. Of course, this card will be too thick to send in the mail, but I'm hand delivering it, so it doesn't matter. That's one thing you want to keep in mind when you're making a card. So if you're going to make a shaker card, you probably just want to use embellishments for your shakers that are going to be very thin, like a sequin or the seed beads. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a like. And if you're not already a subscriber, I'd really appreciate if you can subscribe to my channel. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.